Well, I decided Naiyang because I stayed there for 1 month. So I rented a friend of mine a condo, and I liked it. It's a bit quiet, but I think for a family, I've got a new baby coming in September. So I think for me, it'll be perfect because, a 14-hour flight, and you don't really want to be traveling an hour or two. So within 5 minutes, you will be in the apartment, and it's 300 meters from the beach, and it's got lots of pools. So that was like the main deciding factor. Yeah, when I originally bought it a year ago, the exchange rate for the British pound was about 40 Thai baht, but now at the moment it's just under 47. So, I've almost saved £8,000 to £10,000 on an apartment I bought just because of a change of exchange rate.
Welcome to the Fruiting Body Podcast with your host, Brendan. Today we have an absolute legend of a guest returning. It is the world-renowned osteopath lecturer. This is John Gibbons, the Body Master. He's making his third appearance, and this episode was absolutely insane. For everyone that, you want to get that information of high level. We're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of experience in that whole world of osteopath. Now, I'm going to pass this on to John. He's going to tell you a few of the topics that you can expect to get from this podcast. John, what were we talking about?
Spinal injuries, my life in Naiyang, my new apartment I just bought. I just finished writing my new book. I've also got a Brazilian beautiful girlfriend and expecting a child in September. So there's lots of content in here.
Tons of content, especially it gets very technical. So all you ladies out there, he's got a kid on the way. He's taking it's over. Sorry about your luck. Maybe about a year ago you had a chance. It's done now. All right, we're going to get this podcast started. Do not forget to like, subscribe, leave some comments for John. He's going to answer those all. And without further ado, let's get this started. Okay, yep, we're live. All right, so we're here with John Gibbons. You saw that epic intro. There's going to be so many golden nuggets, so much information you're going to get right now. Let's just jump right back into it. So, well, first, thanks for coming back. You're making a three-peat, the third time, yeah?
Third time.
Yep. I mean, if this podcast goes 10 years, how many repeats are you going to have? We haven't had beers on the podcast yet.
You should.
I've done it once with a friend, but what ends up happening is I think you need to get a cooler here.
Okay.
Because we just kept going, cut, beer, cut, beer. Doesn't work so well. Let's jump back into the development of your condo. You must have been on, when do you think the last time you were on? Was that almost a year ago?
Yeah, because I did one in January the first time, or February, last year. And I've probably done one 6 months later, 8 months.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that's when you first started the development in Naiyang. You've purchased a condo. Maybe anyone who hasn't seen that, we'll leave links to the other two podcasts. Just kind of recapping that whole process. Has everything gone to plan? Is there anything that's been off a bit?
Well, actually, it was due to finish in December this year, but it's been completed this week. So I've actually got the keys on Tuesday. So 6 months ahead, which is, in UK, it's pretty unheard of, to be ahead of schedule, especially by 6 months.
Everything's done. Like, people are moving in?
Yeah, people are moving. I think they said they've got 4 families in already. They said it's super quiet, and then let's get it furnished now, which I did yesterday, because he said when you come back in December or January, he said there'll just be 100 families wanting to furnish their place. And he said, most of it comes from Bangkok, and you can't just buy it and take it home. You buy it, and then you wait 1 to 2 weeks. So you're going to be in an apartment that's empty and no furniture, and then you probably have to live somewhere else.
But you're staying in Naiyang now. You're going to be moving in about a week, right?
I fly back to UK on Saturday.
This Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday.
Holy shit, time goes fast.
Yeah, I've been here for just over 2 weeks.
2 weeks now, but I think most of the time you're lecturing down in Phuket town.
Yeah, old Phuket, yeah.
Okay, we're going to get to that part. We'll talk about the lecturing in Phuket, how that came together, and specifically what you were doing on that side. More on the development side in Naiyang, and I think we can discuss this on camera. When you were structuring this, and a lot of people have those questions, purchasing a condo or a home or a villa or whatnot in Thailand, what was that process like? Who kind of held your hand through that? Were there any hiccups? How did that go?
Well, I decided Naiyang because I stayed there for 1 month. So I rented a friend of mine a condo, and I liked it. It's a bit quiet, but I think for a family, I've got a new baby coming in September, so I think for me it'll be perfect because a 14-hour flight, and then you don't really want to be traveling an hour or two. So within 5 minutes you will be in the apartment, and it's 300 meters from the beach, and it's got lots of pools. So that was like the main deciding factor. I've spent time in Kamala, Caron, Rawai, so I've been to most places. But, it is a little bit further from the airport. But, if you want a bit of a busier life, but the beaches are similar. So, it depends what your choices would be.
Yeah, and it's getting so hectic up here with the traffic. I mean, it's low season now. You've probably seen the traffic in Patong. So when you're up at Naiyang, it's kind of you've had that 14-hour flight. You're with the baby. You just want to get to the condo, right? And it's
exactly.
It's 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, less.
Yeah.
Probably like 5, probably even 5 minutes.
Are you able to discuss the size, the bedrooms, and a rough idea of the cost? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people, they don't realize your dollar can still go much further still in Thailand today to really get bang for your buck.
Yeah, when I originally bought it a year ago, the exchange rate for the British pound was about 40 Thai baht for 1 English pound. But now at the moment it's just under 47. So, I think I bought it for about 3.6 million. So let's say that would have been 85,000 English. But I think with the exchange rate is now down to like 77. So, I've almost saved 8,000 to 10,000 pounds on an apartment I bought just because of a change of exchange rate. And if you buy in the local currency, it's probably better than paying it in lots of places you can buy in US dollars or euros. But I think it's probably better to buy it in Thai baht as long as you believe the exchange rate is going to be in your favor.
Yeah, but you bought it off plan, meaning they sold it to you without any before they broke ground?
Yeah.
Okay, and so which means there is that value there, because today it's probably now worth close to 4.5, or maybe could be worth 5 already.
Yeah, I would say. But it's quite small, so it's a 37 square meter. And when I bought it, I was a single man. But now, I've got a beautiful Brazilian girlfriend, and we are expecting a baby in September. So my life has changed.
Yeah. Are you able to buy the room next door and maybe attach a door?
Well, I am in talks of buying a 2-bedroom because the title, the Halo where I bought, they build in another one called the title Serenity in Naiyang. And obviously it's off plan again, so it's going to be 2 years. So I probably will buy a 2-bedroom.
It's right in the same complex almost.
No, it's in the same area, so it's probably within 1 kilometer. But they think we've got like 800 units, so they have a lot of places to sell. So we will see.
It's still the one you're in now, 37 square. It's it's bigger than a standard hotel room. So it must has a good feel to it. Do you have a sea view as well?
No, we got the mountain view. Okay. So it's on the other side. So it's on the 7th floor. The bonus is when he was trying to sell it to me, he said, if you're on the 1st floor, it's more expensive because you might have access to the pool easier. But then if you're on the 7th floor, you get higher ceilings. And no one's going to be above you. And then where I am, no one's to the left or right. So we'll be super quiet with a mountain view. And I thought, perfect.
Yeah, and I think Naiyang, it's really up and coming. We've discussed that on the podcast numerous times. We got out of Surin. It's much more comfortable up at Pasak. And a lot of people talk about Phang Na and Mai Khao, but before you go all that way, to be honest, Naiyang is viable. I mean, for example, I'm at Pasak 8, we're that connecting road to Blue Tree. You came from Naiyang. How far was the drive and how lovely was it?
Well, when I looked at the map to find you, I had a choice to go the standard road,
the highway
through the town. And that was, let's say, 26 minutes, the quickest route to you. So that was easy. But then we decided to go where I like to go, as in by the beach. So we went Nai Tong, Banana Beach, and then we came down that way. So it was a lot more scenic. Maybe a few more minutes, but for me, it was beautiful.
Yeah, don't tell too many people that. I mean, no, this is one of my favorite roads. Some days before the traffic really arrived in Phuket. I love that road. You go out to the Layan, Northern Bang Tao, and you just hug the beach road, and you can end up at the back end of the Marriott. There's a little I don't know if I've showed you that road. So
I've done that road. So the Marriott, from the Marriott towards Banana Beach, that long stretch.
Yeah, and then
there's
a beach there of the Marriott.
Yeah,
that is on
Yeah,
That's actually Naiyang.
I've been there.
But you can go across when the tide is low.
Oh, Marriott. Okay, sorry, I thought you meant the Movenpick.
Marriott.
Yeah.
So the Marriott's at the end of Naiyang. So when you're on
Yes.
Naiyang Beach, you can see the Marriott, yeah? Certain times of the day when you have your motorbike, all the bars, they extend. They're right at the end there, and the trees are there, the Marriott's there. Certain times of the tide, you can drive out on your motorbike and look, and the tide will go low enough where you can go right across, and you're coming into Naithang. So you can, it's a nice little sneaky tour. I've done it a few times where it definitely was not low tide, and like I was like struggling to keep my bike alive.
Wow. Okay.
No, but it's not that bad. And even the locals do it. They're watching them go around, and there's so much building going out there, and then you can come and loop out.
Yeah.
Focusing more on the Naiyang side. I mean, I've been there 8 years ago. I kept coming up to see you guys because living up at Pas Sac, Naiyang is a great alternative from going to your Bang Tao Beach, going through the dust bubbles, going through your Boat Avenue. We'd come up and we'd have dinner at Naiyang. You've been in and out of Phuket quite often. How have you seen Naiyang change over the past few years?
Well, every time, it's like when I was there with my friend Rob, like he was with me a year ago, you know, when he came, because I think I came 5 times last year, so I probably haven't noticed an obvious change compared to my friend. But when he came, he's like, wow, it's almost like, new places are being developed all the time. So we went to the beach club, and that was new. That was lovely. So lovely food.
Where's that? Oh,
just near the Dewa Hotel, near the Boss Bar. So that's a new place. You know, they got a pool there. So it's like a beach club. And so we've had a couple of afternoons, if you like, there.
Maybe I'll come up there. What do you guys doing Friday? If you're leaving, you said you're leaving Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, but on Friday we might, because they told me about this, which we went to, the Maya Beach Club in Bang Tao.
Oh, Maya Beach Club. Oh, yeah.
On a Friday, because we went one afternoon, so we had like an afternoon by the beach, where we had sushi, and it was just magnificent. The sea was lovely, the pool was lovely, the staff were lovely, everything was really cool.
Yeah, it gets a bit messy there. I usually go next door to the local, and that place, people can be there till like 6 a.m. It's rough. I was like, okay, I hope he's up at Naiyang and maybe something a bit simpler, because it is quiet. Like when we talk beach club, the beach club up in Naiyang, we're not talking like, it's very laid back.
Well, especially now, low season. So I think it was only myself and Rob in there. Whereas I think when I came a few months ago, because I was here in January and February, so I was almost here for 2 months. There was a lot more people because it is higher season. So, but I always feel sorry sometimes for the local people, the local bars, because there's not many people at the moment. So it's super quiet, which means the beach is particularly empty.
Yeah, especially a place like Naiyang, when it hits low season, it's really low season there. Yeah. I don't understand some of those restaurants, like the Italian ones on the strip in Naiyang, how they can even survive out there. It's completely empty now. I mean, even the Russians are gone there. I guess mostly you're going to be getting maybe the expats. Which have you been to the Slate?
Yeah, I've stayed at the Slate
how's that?
A couple times. The Slate is probably the best hotel I've probably stayed in the world.
Really?
Yeah, and I've stayed in some lovely hotels, but so
it has that rustic feel to it, right?
It's lovely. Yeah. So, but you at the moment it's actually quite reasonably priced. But in January, February, it was almost 4 times the price.
What is the price now? Like probably pushing 10, probably close to 10, I'd guess.
Yeah. Well, we stayed in the Diwa, and we've got a magnificent 2-bedroom suite, and I think in English, I think it's about $120 for the night. So
3 to 4,000, something like that.
Yeah, and I think the Slate was double that, but for a smaller room, so a smaller place.
Yeah. Well, that's what's good about, even when low season's coming as an expat living here, you can go to these hotels and they just kind of become dirt cheap.
Yeah.
And plus, and also it's much more quiet. There's not as many people there. We do that a lot when we go to Khao Lak. But you're at the Diwa.
Diwa Hotel.
That's the one right before you turn right onto Naiyang, right? Onto the beach?
Yeah, it's right on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a lovely 5-star hotel, and I've stayed there. I try to stay there most of the time, if I'm honest, and I normally get like a pool villa, and it's just lovely.
And you're saying it's only like 4,000 baht?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, well, I stayed in a big room, So I was about £50 it's perfect because when I got off a plane to teach in Old Phuket, rather than getting a taxi for another hour or two, because I knew the traffic would be busy, I thought, well, I'll stay in DUR one night, and then I got a bolt in the morning, and it was super easy.
Yeah, and I think people forget as well that when you come in the low season, if you're not a strong swimmer, you're not going to go in the water anyways. Like Surin Beach, Karan Beach, Bang Tao, even Naithon, the tide is extremely strong. It's dangerous. You definitely don't want kids in there. So Naiyang actually becomes a great option. You get a reasonably priced 5-star. You're close to the airport, and it's maybe less than 4,000 baht a night, which is, I mean, that would probably cost you down in Bang Tao like 6-7.
Yeah,
so it's almost double the price.
Yeah. And that's for two of us, and it would be 2 bedrooms, and it's like it must be 150 square meter, the size of the whole room.
So you got two guys. You guys have had a few nights out. What's the room looking like? At least you got the maids in there cleaning.
Yeah, the maids. Yeah, my friend Rob I had a day shopping yesterday, and he had a day, but he put the sign saying, no cleaner.
No cleaner.
Yeah, so we'd run out of most things, all the tea and the coffee, and then all the alcohol. The bin was full of just bottles of wine.
Yeah, I think when you come here, you still come into vacation mode. I think anyone, when you're traveling in and out of Phuket, you've been out a few nights of the week. How you feeling?
Well, I think my liver on Saturday, when I get off the plane, because we got a business flight on the way back, so, on Emirates, and we got a bar on the plane, and my friend does like, a few beers. So I think Sunday morning when I arrive, I'm just going to be off alcohol for at least a month.
And that's what Phuket can do to you. I find that's why I try to get out, be active, do golf. Because there's only 2 options in Phuket: go be active or go get drunk. Yeah. There's no in between here. And one thing I want to touch upon before we jump into the lectures at Phuket Town, for someone like yourself that's been traveling around Phuket for quite some time, do you find like certain times of the day you notice now that like, okay, maybe I'm not going to ride the motorbike, you plan it out a little bit more properly?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I do, but my friend definitely would, because he doesn't particularly like the heat. I can definitely sense it's hotter like this month than it was in January, February. I would say almost unbearable to be on a motorbike at 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I probably would suggest you're either going to ride in the morning or towards the end of the day. But for me, it's okay.
Yeah, I saw you coming in without the shirt on. I'm like, man, you're going to be cooked. You drove like that the whole way.
Yeah. But for me, it was okay.
Are you throwing the sunscreen on too?
Not this morning.
Jeez.
Yeah, but it was like 20 minutes, and I thought, well, I will get my vitamin D from that.
That is Thai heat, though. It can scorch you in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Like some days I'll go out golfing and like I won't have the sleeve on for 2 minutes. The arm's just absolutely cooked.
Yeah.
Here it's intense. And for the heat side, the heat wave, we had that about 2 months ago or a month ago. April. I don't know. We're June. April. Oh my God. It was unbearable. That's why all the air cons are sitting over there. We thought we had to change them all. It was just so hot.
Okay.
So that's where we're going to put some big ones in. Let's transition into the side of lecturing in Phuket Town. You've been on multiple times, so everyone has a good idea of what you're doing, what you're all about. This is the Body Master. Can you explain how that came together, this business trip into Phuket Town, and specifically what were you doing?
Well, I guess it's taken many years, if you like, of bringing it all together. Because while I was here, I was almost commissioned, if you like, to finish my book. So I've just finished my 9th book on spinal manipulation. So that's been 4 years in the making. So I guess people will know me and invite me because they would have probably read one of my books, because I think it's in maybe 6 languages now. So, but also because I'm quite popular on YouTube. So it's almost like saying that they've watched me in the classroom environment. They've read my books. So it's almost like a win-win, because I've been doing it for quite a while. So it's inevitable that I'll end up going somewhere. And hopefully, I deliver a good course. And I will give them a book. So, I'll send them, let's say, a PDF of the whole book. So rather than the course notes, or I bring the books with me. So if there's not too many students, this time I brought, say, 15 books. So, I gave some of the books away and I sold some. So it's quite nice for a student to get a book that I've written in their language. Not so much in Thai yet.
It's not in...
No, Chinese. Yeah.
It's were you training Chinese in Phuket town or Thais?
No, mainly here. Yeah, but actually one guy come from Dubai, but he's Thai, so he flew in from Dubai. I had one guy coming from Bali who's a US guy, so he's a rolfer, quite famous in Bali, so he's been there for 21 years, Jeffrey. So it was lovely to teach him. And then he also treated me as well. So he performed like a 1 hour rolfing session on me.
What is that?
Well, rolfing is it's like basically it's a form of structural integration. So people might say it's like a soft tissue massage technique, but it's a bit more complex than that. So it's designed by like a famous lady called Dr. Ida Rolf, and then she would have taught people like Eric Dalton is quite famous in the US, has a place in Costa Rica, Art Riggs, like Tom Myers. So these are quite famous people in Maitland. So these individuals. So they would basically have like a process where they'll treat you approximately 10 times. So, if you've got lower back pain, more than likely we're not going to start in your lower back. If you've got neck pain, we're not going to start in your neck. We might start on the fascial system. So it's like a myofascial release technique. So it's quite, and Jeffrey, who treated me, didn't use any oils, no creams, quite pressurized on the techniques. So it's just trying to work with the fascial system. Lovely.
And what's the goal, the benefit? Is it trying to find an underlying issue and address that?
Well, they would say that the body has like, I think Tom Myers in his book Anatomy Trains has something like 13 fascial planes, if you like. So for instance, and he's done cadaver studies, so he's got like the superficial back line or the front line, cut as a cadaver. So it's all connects, A connects to B, which connects to C. So basically the plantar fascia of your foot will connect to the Achilles tendon, and the Achilles tendon will connect to the gastrocnemius muscle. Then the gastrocnemius connects to the three heads of the hamstrings. Then the hamstrings connects to the ischial tuberosity, to the sacrotuberous ligament, and then it goes, on his system, it'll go to the erector spinae muscle all the way to the occipital bone. So there's like a long connection. So when they are assessing you, they are looking at it from a global fascial plane, if you like. Okay, so and where you might be particularly restricted, they might try to untangle the system, if you like. So even like Mel Cash will say to his students in London, slowly bend and touch your toes, and then see how restricted you are. Like I'm restricted, and he says, okay, let's try technique number 1 using a golf ball, and he will basically say, you massage the foot where you are trying to loosen, if you like, the fascial system in your foot. And then he'll say, then try to reach and touch the foot again. And you'll be amazed how much you can improve by simply starting with massaging your feet. Okay, so it's, and that's what Dr. Ida Rolf states. She says, where the problem is, the pain is not. Okay, or where the pain is, the problem is not. Okay, so, it means a similar sort of thing. But basically say, if you've got low back, and even what I'm teaching, I did a video recently on YouTube for my book, and I'm saying, if you do have lower back or pelvic pain, then the lower back and the pelvis and the hip connects as a triangle. So if you've got, let's say with the pelvis you tilt it anteriorly, automatically the lumbar spine is going to increase its extension, which is lordosis, and the hip is naturally going to flex. So if you've got a problem with A, let's say the lumbar, B, the pelvis, and C, the hip is automatically involved, whether you like it or not. And a problem with A will be a problem with B or C or both. And I also say that whenever you're looking at, say, pain in the thoracic spine or the lumbar, you should always start with the foot, as in like the great toe, the big toe, and the big toe should be able to simply extend. And if you cannot extend in the great toe, the body will compensate through the smaller toes, and then suddenly the kinetic chain is all mechanically altered. And even the ankle will need to simply dorsiflex or extend about 10 degrees. The knee needs to fully extend, and if you've got a posterior meniscal tear, it's going to limit extension and flexion. If you've got a labral tear, which is the cartilage in the hip, and it's torn, or you've got an impingement, it's going to alter your natural biomechanics. And then when you walk, ideally we'd walk, people are obsessed with eye watches, so 10,000 steps per day. But you'd be amazed that, add in a bit of gout into the big toe, okay, or add in, a deviation, or add in a restricted ankle because you've gone over on it a week ago, and just watch yourself walk, you're going to struggle. Okay, so
it's causing that restriction as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to talk about, I think at least something relatable is when we talk about my knee, and we discussed that. And actually, everything feels great now. If anyone's listening to the podcast, if you're hearing any noises, there is construction here. I knew one of these days would come. There's not much we can do. And we are filming outdoors, so you will hear birds chirping and the water going, giving that Thailand feel. Right now, they're next door. I think they're cutting metal. You can hear it a bit, yeah?
Yeah, only a little bit.
Only a little bit. Yeah. I think maybe I can hear it more. We'll try to get the sound out, but if not, hey, this is filming in the natural environment you don't control. We'll talk about my knee, because that's something that I can relate to, and we can have a deeper discussion. For example, you did, would you call that like a protocol test on my knee to determine what the issue was? And maybe you can go into a little bit of detail, because I think these meniscus tears or slight tears is something that many athletes, fighters, people even living in Thailand, older guys like myself, golfing, we all struggle with. Can you recall what was the issue? What type of testing did you do? And what are my options to fix that issue as well?
Yeah, so most of the time, when you think about the meniscus in itself, in a simplistic way, it's almost like a gum shield in your mouth. If you had a gum shield because you were boxing and you take it out, it almost looks like that. So it's wider on its periphery when it tapers. And you've got two, so you've got the medial meniscus and then the lateral meniscus. So they're almost like two gum shields that sit on top of your tibia. And then, you've got this natural convexity of the femur where the condyle is coming down, and then it fits perfectly into the concavity of the menisci. And many years ago, they would have said, before MRIs and things like that, if they suspected a meniscus, they would have done a meniscectomy and took it all out. Whereas nowadays, if you've got only a small tear, then you don't really want the whole thing taken out. You'd almost want just like a micro, like meniscectomy, where they just do like a little bit, where they'll just cut a little bit off. So they leave it, because the main function of it is not what they would believe to be shock absorbing. It's actually to provide congruency for the knee joint, because the knee joint is not simply a hinge joint that flexes and extends. As soon as you bend the knee, it actually has a rotation, and then the tibia will turn in a little bit as the femur will turn out a little bit. So you have this like unlocking mechanism with the knee. And many people tear it. They do say, like in certain books, that one of the common types of tear is what they call a bucket handle tear. So when you think about a bucket with a handle, so it's still intact, it's not broken off and floats within, even though part of it can. It's almost just like, the bucket with a handle, and it lifts, and sometimes it can lay down and you don't really get many symptoms. But then if it lifts up a little bit, and then when the knee tries to go into full extension, which is called like the lock, because the knee has to screw home, it's almost like saying that this bucket with a handle, it's in the way. So the knee is unable to fully screw home into place. Most of the time they tend to be at the back, and they tend to be, even though you can tear the medial and lateral, the medial one is more fixated within the knee because it connects to the inside ligament called the medial collateral ligament. And also the joint capsule. Whereas on the lateral side, it almost has a bit more motion. So it's almost sometimes can move out the way of trauma. Okay, whereas the medial has no choice, but if it's trauma going to happen, it's almost there saying like, hit me and let's see how I manage with that hit. Whereas the lateral will go, well, I'm just going to sidestep that one. Okay, so, and then once it's torn, because it is a piece of fibrocartilage, it's not really going to repair, potentially a little bit on the periphery, especially like in the younger. But if you're a male that's 40 and you've got a posterior horn tear a year ago, it's still going to be a torn meniscus. So like the testing I would do, I could almost keep it simple. I'll always say, can you squat fully? And then when I was assessing you couldn't. Almost like, can you bend down like to the floor with your knees fully flexed? And if you cannot, you might have a posterior meniscal tear. If you can't fully extend it, you can't lock it, which means the vastus medialis muscle on the inside of the knee is going to atrophy because it needs to be involved in full extension, especially the last 10 to 15 degrees. So if you can't fully extend the knee, muscles are already going to waste, which is called an atrophy. So the simple test will be anything that involves full flexion. There are tests known as they're old school tests, but I quite like them because I'm old school. They've got something called the McMurray rotational test. A lot of people don't use them anymore. There's one called the Appley's grinding test, and it is what it says. It's a grinding test because you're trying to exacerbate the symptom that the patient is presenting with. And when I did them on you, you didn't particularly like it. So I think I said to you that you had a posterior horn tear.
Yeah, it was on the outside. That's posterior?
Yeah, on the back.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's more likely on the back. So I think you is probably, if it's on the outside, more lateral. I can't remember.
Yeah, lateral. Yes.
Yeah, so more lateral. So a lot of time, it's easy, and it's mainly done through, because you said you was doing hockey.
Yeah, from lateral movement.
Yeah,
and being fat, extra weight on, and putting all the weight onto an edge of a skate, maybe an extra 10 kg, and not playing for 10 years. Those specific muscles haven't probably seen hockey skates, and the next day, I couldn't walk for like 3 to 4 months. Walk well.
Yeah, because you were struggling for a while.
Yeah, but after we had that discussion, you said, okay, you got to do an MRI. And from the MRI, you can determine if it's a slight tear, or because there's different types of tears, to determine if you really need surgery, or you could do stem cells, or the other one is like it's a blood plasma. What's the name?
PRP.
PRP. Yeah. Right now, everything's fine, but talk about that diagnosis when you kind of came to me and said, at this point, you got to do an MRI. Why is that the only option?
A lot of therapists, they'll have their own sort of like appreciation of what the condition would be. And it's almost saying that, it's like having back pain where you've got, say, foot drop and you've got weakness in the leg. And you'd almost want an MRI to confirm or deny. It's hard to say the word diagnosis because you can't physically diagnose. But you can hypothesize, as in an educated guess of what the problem is. Because then, like in UK, it's very difficult. I would normally refer my patient for an MR to find out exactly what it is. Because a lot of time they'll say, well, I'll run it off, or I'll wait until nature just heals it. But you might find it doesn't. And the problem is you've got, if you don't get it dealt with sooner rather than later, because of a altered compensation within other areas of the body. So, if you've got a problem with your right hip, you might find in 6 months you've got a problem with your left knee, because of the compensation. And sometimes I think, if you spend the money, especially in UK, maybe Thailand the same, you're almost bypassing the NHS process. Okay, so I normally say, well, I can organize an MR in UK. It's $300 US, £240 roughly in English. And I said, once you know what it is, we can then deal with it. And if it's only a small tear, then maybe you might find it just lays dormant, and then, then maybe just reduce the rotation type of activities for a period of time, and you might find it'll just settle down on its own. But if you plan to do something that involves more hockey, or more rotatory sports, then, you're going to be on the waiting list to see the surgeon, in theory. Okay, so I'm not saying it's the only option, but an X-ray is almost a waste of time, because we are looking for an issue with the fibrocartilage. Especially on a male who's 20, we're not going to have any degenerative changes within the knee. But an MRI, also, you want to be looking at the cruciate ligament as well, and the other structures that go with it.
Yeah, in Thailand as well, the cost, it's about 16,000 baht, but you need to be mindful if people have insurance, which I have insurance, that's fine. So the cost can up, but at the same time in Thailand, if you had to get surgery, you can do it the next day. Meanwhile, in the UK or Canada, you might be going home for 8 months.
Exactly.
So obviously there's those benefits over there. What I ended up doing is I kind of did what you said. I did no hockey, no lateral movement. So anything in the gym that would maybe ski jumps back and forth, no lateral, avoided all that. And I did nothing loaded, no loaded squats. I guess I would have saw you then in December. That would have been December, January.
Yeah.
And I did nothing. And about a month ago, it's all, the pain's gone. I can squat down. There's no inflammation. I don't want to test it though still.
Yeah.
What do you think is, and I didn't do any stem cell. I didn't do any rehab. I didn't do any PSP, PRP, nothing, just left it alone for about 4 months. It feels great now. Should I continue following that in terms of just don't do lateral movement, kind of let it stay dormant for a while?
Well, I guess you have a choice. It depends what your goal is in some ways. I'm not sure, if I'm honest. Really?
Yeah, it's at a certain point, I guess, let's say 50 years ago, like you were saying, when they just took the meniscus out. Today, they can actually do this microsurgery. At a certain point, without surgery, is it almost impossible to completely heal? Or is it really depend on...
I probably would say it's not particularly... I wouldn't say it's healed as such because of the type of structure it is. But then, remember I was saying to you with this bucket handle. So sometimes you can, or if you got like a flap tear, then if it's showing itself, and then the condyle of the femur will catch it, and that's probably why you got some symptoms. Whereas if that tear is now almost like compressed a little bit, then you might find, and the condyle can now glide over that tear, but still there, more likely, okay, but now you have no symptoms. But then, if you did something, I'm not saying you're going to avoid it, because if you are training, and I said to you, you look like you've lost weight and you are back to training. Okay, so it's a win-win. But then if you said to me, John, I'm going to play hockey next week because I've been asked to, it wouldn't surprise me if your meniscus tear that's laying dormant and is happy now shows itself again. Okay, yeah. So at the end of the day, the choice would be yours, and you got to ask yourself, is it the risk that is worth taking? Or am I happy to to play golf and to do this? Even though that's a rotatory sport as well, but it's you're not going to load it in the same way.
Yeah, it's odd. It'd be I'm a lefty, so it's on my back leg. Yeah. I think I'd be more because this front leg can really turn. The back leg kind of just turns over quite easy. But no, that's the thing. I'm not going to be risking it playing hockey because it was a bit of a nightmare for 2-3 months. Just more annoying. It's like you could feel the inflammation in it.
Exactly, because you were saying to me before that, and I agree with you 100%. For like running, people would negate running, but I was saying for weight control, as long as it's not you're not running 10 miles a day, you might be running say 3 10Ks a week or 2 a week. For weight control, it's perfect. Okay, but then you were saying that you could hardly walk to the shop, you couldn't really bend down.
The next day was yeah.
Then and this is lasts a long time. And every time you tried to run, it was painful, and then your weight is slowly increasing. Okay, so you got all the negative effects. And when you analyze the knee, it's only going to be a relatively small issue. Okay, but globally, it's causing a big problem.
What is the size of this part of the meniscus? Are we talking like a couple inches? Like, is this paper thin almost?
Well, it's wider. It's wider on the periphery. Okay, and then it will taper down. So it's actually. It's hard to say because obviously it depends on the size of a knee. But, you got over almost like, because I've seen knee surgery many, many times. And I've actually seen a knee replacement. So where they actually cut off the top of the tibia and cut off, the end of the femur, where they put the 2 prosthetic devices on. Okay, so it's almost like, that sort of size. One is more of an open C shape, one is more of a closed C shape, and then the cruciate ligaments will sit.
Yeah, and you were telling me that the tear, you suggested that most likely it could be kind of a tear like a half moon, where it could maybe just be like a dot, essentially, not like a complete flap tear. And something like that we were discussing here, like if I did surgery, the recovery time is quite quick, right?
Yeah. Well, it depends. That's why I said with the MR, if it only shows like a small degenerative change within, then that'll be quite easy to deal with. Whereas for some, if you've got like a larger tear, then you might have to have a bit more complex surgery to try to stabilize it.
Are there a lot of alternative methods, ways, holistic approaches that people try to suggest in your industry to fix that are just complete nonsense?
But a lot of people will take what they believe is like, chondroitin, for cartilage producing medication. But I think once the process has happened, no doubt, we are what we eat. Okay, so no doubt the body is a self-generator of being able to produce new cells.
So 7 days of drinking does not.
No, that probably doesn't help. Okay, yeah, but from a nutritional perspective, no doubt, there will be some benefit of eating, some good nutrition.
Like don't be eating KFC, McDonald's, Burger King, anything anti-inflammatory to kind of.
Yeah. good fats, anything like, nut-based, avocado oils and all that stuff. So it's all, Brazil nuts in particular, almond oil, almond nuts. So it's, it's really good as a protein and a fat-based. And obviously the body will thrive on that, as long as it's not overindulgent.
Is there a controversy within your industry as being an osteopath and, maybe competing with alternative approaches, holistic approaches, where there's a clash of different protocols, ways to maybe address certain issues in the body? Do you guys ever cross paths? Do they have ways in which they present that you just completely disagree with?
I would say a lot of people on Instagram in particular will say they are, the back specialist. But when you look at their underlying qualifications, then they've not done, they probably don't have a degree in, say, physiotherapy or osteopathy or chiropractic. They might have done, like a sports massage, maybe online. Or they might have done a 1 or 2 day course on back pain, okay? And because they've done that, they think, well, I've done all my training and I'm now a back specialist. But then if I was to question them about particular pathologies of the spine, they might say, well, I can cure or I can correct scoliosis. Scoliosis is a tricky one to treat, especially they measure something called the Cobb's angle. And if a Cobb's angle is pretty high, as in like high 40s, 48 plus, then typically they would recommend to have fixation surgery, the Harrington rods. So when people claim on these websites saying, oh yeah, I can fix scoliosis, etc., it's like, it's very much unrealistic, but they can do that. Or if you've got, let's say a male is 70 years old, let's say your father or my father, and then he says, as I'm getting older, I look like my pelvis is changing, and more likely his lumbar spine has spinal changes that they call spondylosis. And one of the effects of spondylosis is that, and the same in the cervical spine, like I've got spondylosis, I've got 2 nerve root compressions riding a motorbike where I was almost decapitated last September, okay, and I'm, almost every day I've got symptoms in my hand, okay, so I'm trying to avoid the anterior cervical discectomy. But when I had the MR scan, it says loss of lordosis. So you're not really going to have a loss of lordosis in a male who's 20 because they're not going to have any spondylosis. And spondylosis is like degenerative changes where the disc dehydrates and the facet joints become hypertrophic. And then you get these little bony spurs called osteophytes. And as a result, the spine then changes and then it becomes more flexed. Okay, so then it loads the disc a bit more. So when people say, "Oh, I can fix your skull," your spondylosis, or people will email me saying, "Oh, John, I've got a spondylolisthesis," and a listhesis simply means that the vertebra has slipped. And they said, "Oh, John, can you manipulate it back in?" Because this other therapist said they could, and they tried to put it back in for me because they said they could do it. Yeah, but they didn't get it in. And I'm saying, of course they cannot move it. Once it's grade, let's say it's a grade 2 slippage, it's grade 4, 1 to 4. Grade 1 is a 25% slip, give or take, and and it's starting to slip. There's just no way because of the amount of ligaments attaching to that area. And if it's slipped anteriorly, how do you physically move it posteriorly? And they think, manipulation is going to, my disc has slipped, John. This therapist said they can put it back in for me because it slipped. I said, discs do not slip. Okay, so so a lot of people are saying that they can do A, B, C, and D, but in reality, it's just impossible to do.
What are your options at that point with a slip disc?
Well,
is it like fusion almost?
Well, for most discs, because I've got 2, they don't tend to, you can use words like a bulge, protrusion, extrusion, prolapse disc, herniated disc, and also if it breaks off, it's called a sequestered disc, which means it's like, you have a fragmentation that's broken off. So like the disc is like a sweet with a hard shell, and you've got the inner fluid, which is called the nucleus pulposus, and the shell is called the annulus fibrosus. And typically, when discs are fascinating, you've got 23 of them in your spinal column, and they allow motion. Okay, so when you're bending forward, the fluid is going to fluctuate a little bit and allow you to side bend and rotate. But obviously, as we get older, the disc is going to dehydrate. And when the fluid within moves and it starts to go towards the periphery, it's going to bulge a little bit. And if there's a ligament close to it, which it probably would be, called the posterior longitudinal, the long one, and it touches it, you think, my back hurts. because it touches a neural sensitive structure. But then if it goes a bit more, you can say the word slip, but remember, there's no such thing. But then if it prolapses, as in the fluid comes out of its natural environment, and now there's a nerve root that exit, it might be, like I've got a C7 nerve root compromise. They'll call it an osteophyte disc complex now. And I've got 2 levels, and I don't like the word severe. So when it says severe compromisation of the nerve root, I'm like, okay. And I wonder why I've got constant, say, C7 tingling here, or C8 here, or C6 around here in both hands, and it fluctuates between the hands. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, what do you do? But for most, for the majority of disc prolapses rather than slips, for the majority, they will calm down and they will settle down. It might take a month or 2 or 3. The surgeon is not really that interested. I saw the neurosurgeon. She said, and I knew she wouldn't be interested in doing anything, but I just wanted to have a talk to her about options. And she said, well, the option, if you had pain, which you don't, and you've got weakness in the arm, which you don't, there's no point in me doing surgery, because if you've just got tingling, I'm not sure I would improve that for you. And then she said the gold standard would be to go in through your neck here, and basically to take out the disc from the anterior part of your neck. And it's called an anterior cervical discectomy. And I probably would need 2 levels doing in here. But she said when you take one out and you put a new one in, it gives you space. Okay, so it means that the nerve root has a bit more ability, if you like, to move. Whereas at the moment, because it's compromised and the disc has gone posterior and fills a space, and the space is quite small, she said, well, I can come in from the side and do a forainotomy, but she said I probably would have to take out a medial part of your facet joint. And I'm like, well, I don't really want something cut out. So I'm probably on the waiting list. And she said, it's quite simple, John. She said, you like motorbikes and you like off-road motorbiking. She said, just don't crash. And I said, it's inevitable. I crashed 2 days before I flew out here, and I wear a neck brace, and my neck almost hyperextended. And I was like, and I'm crashed, hit the ground at 30 miles an hour, but I hit the ground with my head. And I'm thinking, that's not good. Okay, so and then my friend here in Batong was saying, John, we ride in yesterday. Do you want to come with us? And I'm thinking, I think I just need a rest.
Where'd you do that? You crashed recently.
I crashed in England. Yeah, but it was raining. It was on clay, and it was almost on nothing. Normally, I understand if I slip on mud, because the terrain is tricky. But
so you're going about what 50 kilometers? That's quick.
Yeah, quick. But I got a neck brace that stops me from side bending.
Yeah, but still, I mean, even the body, your hands, your feet, you can't start breaking fingers, bones.
Yeah, well, I broke 2 fingers last year.
Yeah, that's why I don't do the sport.
Yeah, it is dangerous. I've probably crashed about 150 times, if not more.
Yeah. I mean, if you weren't at this level of knowledge, would you continue doing it? Because I'm sure the second you crash, you probably know what's wrong with yourself.
Yeah, because I was covered in bruises from it.
Oh.
Yeah, but I haven't broken too many bits. It's just, it's just my neck now. But
why don't we get you out golfing? Let's take it. Let's take it down a notch here, right?
Yeah.
It's much easier. You just that's why I got back into the golf, because I couldn't run, and honestly, every time you go out and golf and walk, it's 10 to 12 kilometers. For me, it's 12 because I can't keep it in the fairway, so I'm going left and right. Well, yeah, you're burning like 1,200 calories.
Yeah, exactly, here. Perfect.
We'll go kind of before. Well, we still got about 20 minutes left. We're good here. Going back and discussing, there's a lot of. I'm trying to tread this lightly. Online coaches, like you said. They might have watched 3 or 4 of your YouTube videos and think they know everything. Probably not. It's not enough information. Yeah. They might take, like you said, the 1 or 2 day online course. So let's say in theory they've got 40 hours of training and they think they can cure scoliosis or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Compare their hours of training to your hours of training through education in school, and not even talking about experience. What is the difference between the programs you went through when you were younger to what these online coaches are going through in terms of hours?
I think when I did my osteopathy, we had to do 1,200 hours just in an osteopathic clinic as part of a 5-year degree.
That's not even the theory. No,
that's just the practical. Yeah. Well, it's not really the practical. That was just in the clinic environment outside your university. So then you had to spend that time. And as the years went on, it was probably almost like, say, half a day a week in the first year, then 1 day a week in the second year. But so by the time you're doing fourth and fifth year, you could spend, most of the days, if you like, in the clinic. And then you had to get all these hours signed off. And that's even before you were qualified as an osteopath. But I always think, I always tell my students that, once you've manipulated, if I'm teaching, say, manipulation or mobilization of a joint, when I teach it, I will say, well, I'll make it look super easy. And naturally, when you're watching me, you think, oh, I can do that because you make it look so easy. But then what you don't understand is that I've done 200, 300,000 of these. So I'm showing you a fine-tuned way of doing it. Whereas when I first start off doing it, I'm saying once you get to about 10,000, it's like 10,000 hours, trying to, learn a new subject or a language. I say, you're not proficient. I would say you are only average. Okay, and obviously the 20 to 30, once you get to 50,000, I would say then you were reasonably okay, at maybe performing a spinal manipulative technique or mobilization technique. But it takes a long time. You can't just suddenly, whether it's in my, a good thing or not, in what I do. But, I teach courses, but I try to stipulate who attends my courses. But sometimes people just naturally squeeze in through an alternative way, because not everybody will say, oh, can I send you my degree certificate and I've done this and I've done that. People will book the course, and when they're on the course, I then realize that in theory they shouldn't be on there because they've only done a small amount of training. But the problem I've got now is that they're there. They've traveled 6 hours on a train to get there, so I can't really send these people home. So I try my best to try to educate, because it's all about education, and it's also all about anatomy. So people say to me, John, you were so good at your anatomy. I'm saying, how do you even learn that? And I'm saying, well, I've been doing this like for 20 years and I've been teaching it. So it just takes a long time. But every day for me, I just add a little bit into my, I'm studying something, whether it's on the internet about, like I'm taking a particular medication this morning, it's like a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, but it's rather than like the typical ibuprofen. I think they call it like an Arcaxia, which is a COX-2 inhibitor. So basically, when you take an anti-inflammatory, you shouldn't really take it if you've got asthma, and you shouldn't take it if you've got a history of any form of, say, ulceration, because you have this what we call a COX-1, which is a cyclooxygenase 1 and 2, and they are used. It's almost like the good inflammation within the body, if you like, but also when you take this pill, it also reduces the mucosal lining within the stomach. Okay, whereas this newer medication I take in Thailand only affects one side, and it's called a COX-2 inhibitor, so it doesn't doesn't affect, if you like, the mucosa within the stomach. So it only works on the inflammatory mediation. So it's very good for joint spinal changes.
This is over the counter?
Yeah, everything's over the counter in Thailand.
Oh,
yeah,
back home,
no chance.
No chance.
Yeah, no chance. Yeah, so.
I think that's the beauty of in Thailand, especially on your side, understanding the pharmacological side of it. You can go to the counter here and know exactly what to be asking for. Yeah. It's quite easy to get your hands on most things in Thailand.
Most things,
at any of the pharmacies. The biggest one, actually, I think I can share it. The biggest one is Grace Pharmacy. You go to the monument. You know where the monument is? If you're coming from this way, you would drive through the monument like you're going to the other side of the island. It's on the left. Massive pharmacy. Talk about anything you want. maybe there's something there for you as well. I want to kind of take it back into your experience with lecturing in Phuket town. We were talking about how that came together, and again, it's just people are reaching out to you. Who reached out to you? Was it a Thai person? How quickly did that come together? Because when we started speaking, it kind of came as a surprise. Was that well planned before, or is that kind of spur of the moment?
Yeah, well, I guess a bit of both, because I taught a friend of mine. She's based, in Bangkok is where I met her, but then she traveled, I think it's something like 10 hours a place up in northern Thailand. So they literally, her husband, who's a policeman, drove him down. So to get to Bangkok, so they spent a day or so just getting to the venue. So she reached out to me originally, and then
when you were doing the venue in Bangkok.
Yeah, when I did the first one.
When was that?
Well, I've done 2 now. So I did one this year in January. Was it maybe February? But I did the same one last year. So last year was I first met her. So I did a 1-day course last year. Then I went to Chiang Mai to ride a motorbike for a week in the jungle, which is very cool. And then this year I did 2 days spinal. Then I drove then from Bangkok down to Phuket. So I took 10 days. So that was very cool. But this time I said, well, I'm going to be in Phuket. She travels to Phuket. Is there any chance that we could run the course maybe here and let's just, see? And she said, yeah, okay, so no problem. So she organized it. She did everything. So she got a flight from her village to Bangkok, then a flight from Bangkok to Phuket. Okay, so 2 flights to come and see me. And then the students, I think I got 8 students. So financially, I doubt she would have made that much money. And then obviously you have to pay. But I didn't charge her for the flight, and I didn't charge for the hotel. So I thought, I tried to help when I can, because obviously a business flight from UK is very expensive. And I thought if I am coming, my apartment's going to be ready. We worked out a date, so it was almost like 2 in 1. So I come to teach, I get a little bit of money, which then helps with furniture and things like that. And then I can take over my apartment, and then I'll fly back, knowing that I've helped a few Thai physiotherapists mainly here, and then I've took my apartment and it's furnished, and then I can go back and see my beautiful girlfriend.
But you're training the Thai physiotherapists, so they can take that knowledge back to whether it's a city, a town, one of their villages as well. Do they come back to you with like these thank you stories and able to share with you, hey, I've learned so much from you, I was able to take it here, and kind of giving you the results that from what they were able to take from your class?
Yeah, almost immediately. Yeah, I would say, especially physiotherapists, because they've got good knowledge based. So they're almost my perfect student, so I don't really have to talk about spinal pathologies, talk too much about anatomy, because I hope that they would know it with a degree. Whereas if I have, say, not a lower level student, but maybe a lower level in terms of certification, then I probably would have to spend a bit more time. They would ask me probably more questions, so it deflects a little bit from the course. Whereas if I have like a physiotherapist or an osteopath or chiropractor, I can almost delve straight into the nitty gritty of the course, and maybe even show them more techniques. But yeah, very quickly they would send me a message the next day, send me a video saying, I did this technique on my patient, and it worked very, very well. My patient was very happy. So it's a win-win. Because you learn by doing. So most of my courses are practical. So rather than just listening to me talk for an hour or 2 or 3, I'm saying you learn by doing and you learn by practicing. And you are here for me to fine-tune you, because a lot of them can already perform technique. So I just like to think that I just fine-tune what they've already got.
Yeah, because I understand now, if you're bringing in people that don't have that education level, experience or whatnot, you'll spend half the lecture kind of walking them through before getting to the meat and potato.
Exactly.
It'd be a lot of pre-education during the lecture as well. What's next for you? You're leaving. You said Saturday.
Saturday.
You're leaving Saturday. You're going back to the UK to your
Oxford. Yeah.
To your child to be.
Yes.
And do you have any upcoming lectures? Anything where maybe people could even, if they're looking to book in advance or they want to reach out to you? What's next?
Well, I'm teaching 2 courses in July. So I've got a spinal manipulation and mobilizing, and I've also got the advanced one. I'm actually going to be
in the UK.
In the UK, yeah, in Swindon. You can look at my website for that. But I'm also going to be in Prague in July. So I'm going to be teaching 2 days there. So in Czech Republic. So I'm going to be going there. And then I'm in Ireland. But obviously, a baby arrives, so that will change a few things that I plan. And I plan to be in Thailand again, probably. Rather than being in UK with a baby January, February, March, I'll be coming here. Whether I'll use my apartment or not, because it might be a little bit small, or whether I'll rent a villa, but I'll be here soon.
You'll you won't be back here till March, you're saying?
No, probably December, or maybe January, February.
Oh, wow. So once you're out of here, it's going to be a while till you're back again.
Yeah, well, I will have another priority in UK.
Yeah, gotcha.
That will keep my feet grounded, so I can't suddenly disappear for a long time. Maybe for 2 or 3 days teaching, but I can't really leave, the family.
Would you see yourself all moving to Thailand? Is that an option?
No. If I'm truly honest, I quite like the UK. I like my friends in UK. I like, what I've got there. But then this would be a bolt hole. But you never know. So like my girlfriend is from the Amazon of Brazil. So naturally she'll be thinking about our daughter and where she's going to go to school. And I think she wants her to be brought up potentially in UK. But then saying that, if we were in Thailand, I think she'd be happy with that as long as, the baby will have good schooling. So we will see.
And what about your thoughts? I mean, as a newborn coming up in the Western world, especially places like the UK, the West it's getting a bit funny over there, whether it's inflation, crime, lunatic politics, ideologies. Depending on where you're living, is there any fear there where, like, I don't know where this world's going as well? Maybe Thailand could be that option.
Yeah, I did have a son, and sadly, I'm going to be honest. My son, he did like smoking cannabis, but he smoked it from a young age, and I think it did change his thought processes. And sadly, I lost my son when he was 17, which is 7 years ago. So I'm now 55, and my girlfriend just turned 34. So I never thought I'd be a father again. So it's going to be all new to me. So. But there is a lot of issue in UK in some respects. But then on the positive, it's a nice place to live. I'm in Oxfordshire, which is a lovely county to live in. The crime rate is very low. I don't plan to live in the suburb of London where there's maybe a bit more trouble. I know there's trouble everywhere you go, but I like to think I'm in a quieter village, and I like to think maybe my girlfriend said to me, John, I know. A child is a child, but I'm pleased that a daughter is arriving rather than a son, because she said, if we had a son, I would worry that he would like motorbikes and he would like to join the army like I did. Okay, whereas a daughter, she'd like to think that would like, to go shopping with her, have her nails done. But I was saying, well, girls ride motorbikes and girls join the military, so... But we will see.
Yeah, don't count it out, yeah.
Yeah, so don't count it out. So, so it is a new chapter. I never thought it would happen to me. And I'm looking forward to it. So, we decided on a name called Yasmin, and then it's a Persian name. And then when I thought about the name and we did some research into it, it simply means gift from God. Okay, and she did try to get pregnant for many years with her boyfriend. And she thought, and she's saying to me that in Brazil, women have babies young, maybe Thailand the same. And she said Brazilian women are almost cursed when they don't have a baby because it's a tree that produces fruit. And because she never produced a fruit, she was almost cursed. So when she was 30, she said, I can't, maybe something wrong with me. I'm going to have a life different for me in UK. So no, she didn't speak any English. She come to London, working. And now, she's pregnant. So I like to think she's very happy because the tree is going to produce a fruit in September.
Yeah, and then you'll be traveling the world with a baby now. It's a whole other. You're leveling up there. And at least like you said, you're going to be living in a place in the UK where it is a bit more like a town, a village. It's maybe all these lunatic ideologies haven't seeped into this area. Do you notice that town and that area? It's like, what is the economy like there? It's more people that are retired. It has that village feel, or is there the middle class? Is there the lower middle class there? What does the feel like?
Well, I think there's a lot of wealth, if you like, in Oxfordshire. When you think about the price of houses outside London, then I think Oxfordshire is one of the highest, because I think a lot of people like to live there. Also Berkshire and a few other places as well. But when I go home, it reminds me of Phuket a little bit, not the weather, and the beaches, but the amount of building that they are doing. So everywhere I drive, it's lovely countryside, but there's thousands of houses being built. And I think in time, where are all the schools to accommodate for all this? I like to think that, if we are in UK, my daughter would go to private school. But, it just depends on the situation at the time, I would guess. Because when I come here, I'm going to be teaching again in Bangkok in January. I think I'm in Korea in February, and I'm probably going to be in Hong Kong as well. So we will come here, we'll use it as a base, and then I'll just drift away for 3 or 4 days, go and teach somewhere, and come back. And I think my girlfriend will be happy, if I have a villa here. And then we'll decide, because the baby's not going to go to school for a few years.
Yeah, and by then, Phuket, the development here, it's a bit crazy. So that's why being situated up in Naiyang is actually a pretty good position. You're out of the mayhem. I mean, the mayhem, it's just going to get worse up here. So no, I think it's the right spot. Even we were discussing maybe Naiyang as an option as well. Okay. We're going to wrap up this one. Our second guest has just arrived. This is where it gets fast. Back-to-back episodes. On a final note, we were also discussing you're going to be working on some online courses and doing some more stuff, getting more involved in the Instagram and the YouTube. If you could just let everyone know into this camera here, and I'll put all links down in the description where they can find you and any other upcoming stuff of where they might need to get in touch with you.
Yeah, if you look at my website, so it's www.johngibbonsbodymaster.co.uk. You can also look at my Instagram account, which is bodymaster.method. And my YouTube, just simply search John Gibbons Osteopath, and you will find me on there. So you can just leave a message on any of them if you want to speak to me. I do have approximately 16 online courses. So if you're interested, just have a look at the website, and if you have any questions, just reach out.
Okay, and this is legit online courses. I mean, the amount of blood, sweat, tears, and hours that have gone into this. So when you're looking around the internet, and you got coaches selling you their packages, nothing against that, but this is the man. That's the stuff you want. So without further ado, that is the end of another podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave some comments. I'll send John over here. He can answer all those comments. So leave thousands, take up all his time. It's free. Okay, that ends another episode. We're out.